Good morning, Central Kentucky. This is Sandra Leslie White coming to you live from WJMM 99.1 FM Life Changing Radio. Shouting out to all of you around the country, WJMM and Facebook Live this morning. Good morning. Those of you who are listening and were listening to Jeremy Riddle and his version of Miracles, that song. I will post on my Facebook page today for those of you who are listening in on Facebook. It will be available for you here shortly. But I think the most important thing about that song, at least to me, is that he believes that God is the God of miracles. And it was written actually by another gentleman by the name of Chris Keelis, I think. And that song, amazingly, was written after the stillborn birth of his son, Jethro. And so out of his pain, this precious gift to all of us, the song Miracles, came forth. So amazing that you can write a song about the God who brings us back to life, as they prayed for their newborn baby Jethro to come back to life, and he did not. It's then that Chris Keelis wrote the song Miracles. So today we are going to talk about what to me is the greatest miracle of all. I think it becomes trite when we talk about what Jesus did on the cross as the greatest miracle of all. Sometimes we just really are trite about it. We take it for granted that he died for us. But I think what happens for us in Hosea is this incredible detail work of the redemption of Gomer, the wayward wife of Hosea, in Hosea chapter 3. So we're going to look at this morning, again, Hosea chapter 3, 1-3, in the New American Standard Version this morning. If you're just tuning in, this is Sandra Leslie White. And the title of my message today is God is in the Detail. God is in the detail. So let's look at this. Again, New American Standard Version this morning, Hosea 3, 1-3. Then the Lord said to me, "Go again, love a woman who is loved by her husband, yet an adulteress, even as the Lord loves the sons of Israel, though they turn to other gods and love raisin cakes. So I bought her for myself for 15 shekels of silver and a homer and half of barley. Then I said to her, you shall stay with me for many days. You shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man, so I will also be toward you." Okay. Again, just tuning in, this is Sandra Leslie White. God is in the detail. Well, have you heard the expression, the devil is in the details? Okay. Let's talk about that for a minute. The devil is in the details. I love bringing some of these things up, through the show because it fascinates me where some of the origins are for the expressions that we use today. Listen to this one. The title of the message is God is in the detail, but did you know that when you think about the devil in the detail, where that came from? And he's going to trump every detail the devil has in your life as we go through this today. Devil in the detail. It's an idiom that refers to a catch or mysterious element hidden in the details, meaning that something might seem simple at first look, but will take more time and effort to complete than expected, and derives from the earlier phrase, God is in the detail, expressing the idea that whatever one does should be done thoroughly. Details are important. Okay, devil in the details comes from God is in the detail. It's been attributed to a number of individuals over time, most notably to German-born architect Ludwig Miles van der Rohe. Sorry there, Ludwig. 1886 to 1969, by the New York Times. In his obituary in 1969, he was attributed to this expression, the God is in the detail, that is where the devil is in the detail comes from. It's a variant, and he says this in Wikipedia, the devil is in the detail is, originally, as he says, God is in the detail, most likely had the expression ending with detail without an S. Colloquial usage often ends the idiom as details, where the word detail is without an S, can be used as both a singular and a collective noun. However, the singular word detail has evolved to mean other terms in some cultures, such as military security detail as a duty assignment, or detailing a car as cleaning or polishing a vehicle. And so the plural form details has been used to more clearly indicate the finer points of a topic. Okay, where am I going with this? The finer points of the topic today, God is in the detail, is in Hosea 3, 1-3. I want to shout out to Dr. Larson today at Asbury Theological Seminary, my alma mater. I took an Old Testament course from him years ago, and this is what he says in this section of Hosea, particularly in verse 2, where we talk about the elements used, and we talked about this last week a little bit, to buy back his wayward wife, Gomer, from the sex slave trade, which she went back into as a temple prostitute. So Dr. Larson says this, as a symbol of God's love, Hosea is commanded to do something that the law forbade. Live again with an adulterous former wife. He references Deuteronomy 24, 1-4. It might be argued that there is no indication that Hosea had ever divorced Gomer, which is central to the Deuteronomic prohibition. Nevertheless, it is plain that at the least what Hosea is commanded to do is irregular and distasteful, not to mention humiliating. If this was true for Hosea, how much more so for God? But his love impels him to remarry Israel. And again, we talked about this in the message, what are you worth? What is your value? We talked about this last week in Hosea 3:2. And let's just repeat that verse for those of you maybe just tuning in. So I bought her for myself for 15 shekels of silver and a homer and a half of barley. Okay, so listen to what Dr. Larson continues to say about this. The total price paid for Gomer really would have been about 30 shekels, the value of a slave, according to Exodus 21:32. And we discussed this. That would have been, the 15 shekels of silver plus the barley and a half, essentially, the homer and a half of barley. Okay, so this is a significant amount of barley, which was essentially the food represented there of a common slave. And so I mentioned last week all of creation mentioned in this passage, that this price that was paid doesn't indicate, as some scholars reference, that she had a worthlessness to her, so he only paid half, half the price. But it actually is the fact that the barley was offered for an exchange for an adulteress. So not only are we talking about a slave and that 15 shekels of silver, but the adulteress, which is what was paid for this barley paid for the adulteress. To me, that's fascinating. So it's in the details here that God is saying, okay, this is Gomer. This is the wife of a prophet. She has left him again, even after Yahweh went after her with his love, with his power, with his amazing, not just forgiveness, not even mentioned forgiveness in chapter 2, his love, his power to allure us into the wilderness, speak kindly to our hearts, to begin to remove the false gods from us, and then to betroth us to him forever. So we have this sure foundation of love. He does all of this for Gomer in chapter 2. And then he says, okay, now I'm going to plant you into the good earth. Remember that from chapter 2. So this process has happened for Gomer, who represents not only the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel at the time that were being influenced heavily by Canaanite gods, not to mention the temple prostitutes, of which Gomer could well have come forth from and now returns to, even after God chased her, even after God cleaned her up, even after God loved her and proposed to her, made that betrothal, that covenant that cannot be broken, from the betrothal toward the wedding ceremony. It's been done. The groom has paid for the bride at the time of betrothal. Remember that. You can look at these lessons if you're interested on my Sandra Leslie White Ministries page. But the fact of the matter is, now it is time for Hosea to go, to man up, to go back, to continue to love a woman who is wayward. And he gives us this amazing detail of what she's really all about. She is really now a slave and an adulteress. And that combined offering of the shekels of silver, of the barley, that combined complete, that total offering, that offering of a slave, which you and I are, until we meet Christ, until we allow him to take us into the wilderness, to speak kindly to us, to remember that it is the kindness of God that leads us to repentance, to know that we are bought for a specific price. And it's the detail of the price that is precious to me today. He knows you. He knows me. He knows exactly where we are. He knows what we struggle with. He knows if we're involved in sexual immorality. He knows if we're involved in alcoholism, or we're involved in a secret addiction to food. He knows where we are in the drug context. He knows where we are if there are illegal or legal drugs that are just keeping us in bondage. He knows how to pay the specific price for you and for me. He knows how to reach us with that specific area that is hidden, but that is killing us. He knows that the devil says he's in the details, but God, who is the originator of every detail in our life, he is the one who numbers the hairs on our heads. He's the one that knew us before the foundation of the world, who knew that we had works to walk in. He knew us. He wove us together in our mother's womb. He knows the details of your life. He knows how to reach you where you are now. I don't care how long you've been with Christ, how long you've been redeemed, how long you've been singing his praises, but you're still in bondage. He knows how to pay the price for exactly where you are. And it is my earnest prayer that he will reach you, alarm you, and shock you with how he gets to you. He will not give up on you. How he gets to you specifically within the context of your bondage. I look forward to continuing this conversation this week. God bless you today.